I'm Sherry. I'm standing in the middle of a luxurious lake house that's now legally mine, but I don't feel like a winner. Instead, I feel like I've just survived a war. The ink on my father's signature on the property transfer deed is still wet, and the silence in the large conference room is deafening. I keep expecting my parents to burst back in, yelling and screaming, but they're gone. It all started on a Christmas Eve. I was sitting at the dinner table, trying to get through the night without being criticized. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were acting like the perfect loving family they always pretended to be. My grandmother, Amelia, a wealthy businesswoman who built a successful chain of high-end fashion stores, put down her fork and looked straight at me with her sharp green eyes. "Sherry," she said, "are you still living in the house I bought you?" I froze. The room went dead silent. I didn't have a house. I lived in a dilapidated apartment on the outskirts of the city. The building was old, with peeling paint and broken windows. The hallway smelled of mildew, and the elevator was always out of order. My apartment was a tiny one-room place with a leaky roof and a broken heater. I had to work 2 jobs just to afford the rent. By day, I was a clerk at a local bookstore, earning minimum wage. By night, I worked as a barista at a coffee shop until late. My mother quickly tried to cover it up. "Mother, don't worry. Sherry decided to rent it out. She's living in a nice little place downtown." But Grandma Amelia wasn't convinced. She stared at me, waiting for the truth. I took a deep breath and said, "I don't have a house, Grandma. I live in an apartment. The rent is $550 a month, and the heater doesn't work. I take the bus because I had to sell my old car." My mother hissed at me, "Stop making up stories. You're ruining Christmas." But I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told Grandma about all the times my parents had refused to help me when I was in need. 6 months ago, my car broke down. I needed $700 to fix it, but I only had $30 in my bank account. I called my father, crying, and asked for a loan. He said, "Sherry, you need to learn to be responsible. We can't keep bailing you out." I ended up selling the car for $150 and taking the bus, which added 2 hours to my daily commute. Grandma Amelia was furious. She demanded to see where I lived. My parents tried to stop us, saying it was too dangerous at night, but Grandma wouldn't listen. We got into her limousine, and my parents followed us in their own car. When we arrived at my apartment building, it looked even worse in the dark. The front door was propped open with a brick, and there were graffiti on the walls. A group of shady-looking men stared at us suspiciously. I felt ashamed as I led Grandma inside. The apartment was freezing cold. The mattress on the floor was damp, and there was a bucket in the middle of the room catching water from the leaky ceiling. Grandma saw it all and her face turned pale. She turned to my parents and said, "3 years ago, I gave you $350,000 to buy Sherry a house and set up a trust for her. What did you do with the money?" My father stammered, "We were managing the money for her. We invested it." But Grandma had done her research. She showed us the bank records. It turned out that $330,000 of the money had been transferred to a real estate agency that sold my parents a beach house. They had been using that money for their own luxury while I was struggling to survive. My mother tried to defend them, saying, "We needed a place to relax. Sherry is young, she can handle a rough apartment." I was heartbroken. I looked at my hands, rough and calloused from my hard work, and then at my mother's soft, manicured hands. I realized how much they had taken from me. The next day, Grandma took me to meet her lawyer, Mr. Harris. He was a tough-looking man with a sharp suit and a no-nonsense attitude. When my parents arrived at the lawyer's office, they looked disheveled and tired. Mr. Harris laid out the facts. 3 years ago, Amelia Thompson transferred $350,000 to your joint account for Sherry's housing trust. Instead, you used it to buy a beach house in your own names. This is embezzlement. My father roared, we are her parents. We have the right to manage the money. But Mr. Harris wasn't swayed. He showed them all the receipts of the luxury items they had bought with the money, like a new yacht and expensive furniture for the beach house. Grandma then revealed that she had signed a new estate plan. Previously, you were the sole beneficiaries of my estate, which is worth around $40 million. But now, Sherry is the primary beneficiary. You are disinherited. My parents were shocked. My father shouted, you can't do this. But Grandma was firm. You broke my trust. You sacrificed Sherry for your own greed. However, Grandma was willing to offer them a deal. If you sign over the beach house to Sherry right now, we'll drop the criminal charges. My father looked at me with hatred in his eyes, but he knew he had no choice. He signed the deed and stormed out of the office. We thought that would be the end of it, but we were wrong. The 7 days we waited for them to move out of the beach house were a nightmare. My mother bombarded me with texts, calling me a thief and a manipulator. My father posted lies about me on social media, saying I had mental health issues and was addicted to drugs. On the 3rd day, when I went back to my apartment to get my things, I found it ransacked. My father was there, drunk and angry. He accused me of ruining his life and demanded the money he thought Grandma had given me. Just as he was about to lunge at me, Grandma appeared with her driver. She hit my father with her cane and told him to leave. You ceased to be my son when you let Sherry suffer, she said. After that, we went through a few weeks of legal battles. My parents filed an injunction, claiming Grandma was mentally incompetent and I had unduly influenced her. But the judge saw through their lies. She looked at the evidence and ruled in my favor. The beach house was officially mine. Without Grandma's money, my parents' world fell apart. Their main house was foreclosed, and they had to move into a small rental apartment. They lost their friends, and the truth about their actions spread in the social circles. About a month after the court case, I received a letter from my mother. She wrote that they forgave me and asked for my help with their rent. I just laughed and threw the letter in the trash. I was done with their manipulation. I went to the bank and set up my own accounts. I met with a financial advisor and learned how to manage my money. I drove to the beach house, which was a beautiful, sprawling mansion overlooking the ocean. The first time I stepped inside, I felt a sense of peace. I decided to make the house my own. I painted the walls bright colors and turned one of the rooms into an art studio. I invited Grandma over for dinners, and we sat on the deck, watching the sunset. As winter came, I remembered the first snowfall. In my old apartment, snow meant cold and misery. But here, it was a beautiful sight. I put on my warm coat and walked out onto the deck. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who was always afraid and felt like a failure. But now, I was free. I was Sherry, and I had a new life ahead of me. I closed the door behind me, leaving the past outside. I was finally home.